For the longest time, TF2 HUD mods have been in a kinda bad place, with every single HUD mod being the exact same thing, over and over again. It eventually got to the point where I just ignored HUD mods entirely and switched over to vanilla again. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you're a fan of actual, good-looking HUD mods, today's a better day than any to get out there and start checking Game Banana for new HUDs. We're going to be talking about 6 mods today, many of these released or updated within the last 2 weeks as of recording this. Out of all of these, I even like one so much that it's gonna be my new HUD. Maybe try guessing what that is in the comments. Winner gets a cookie. Anyways, without any further delays, let's start talking about the first HUD on this list. Out of everything I'll be showing today, DarHUD is both the newest and most distinct HUD out of the lot. While the other HUDs are more vanilla focused, DarHUD has a really unique design. It evokes the style of vanilla while still looking significantly more modern. It's pretty flat and it's pretty sharp, but when it needs to, it can have more detail. This is something especially noticeable in the main menu, which looks like a modernized version of TF2's old main menu from 2012. Other menus here remind me of past HUD mines. That grid design on the character sheet, for example, reminds me of FrankenHUD's character select, while some of the more square menus remind me of Toon HUD. You can tell there's a lot that this HUD is inspired by, and it really feels like a culmination of all those old designs. But if there's one negative thing I can say about this, it's that the design feels a little all over the place in some areas. Those Toon HUD looking panels I mentioned look fine in isolation, but put next to an otherwise consistent design language of slanted corners, they do look a little off. I can also see this HUD kinda not appealing to 2 specific camps. Those who want an ultra optimized HUD, and those who are really hardline about keeping the vanilla design. This really stands in the middle of that, trimming the fat and keeping what I believe to be the good elements of vanilla. To some people though, it either wouldn't do enough or do too much. Anyway, I think I've talked about this thing enough. Let's go on to our second HUD. If you've heard of any of the HUDs on this list, it was probably this one, and in my opinion, it is the polar opposite of a HUD like DarHUD. Middleman is quite simply the default HUD's design squished into the middle of your screen, and I don't like it. Okay, it's not exactly the default HUD. There's embellishments here and there, specifically noticeable in the health and ammo counters, that help a lot with readability. Oh wait, these are readability issues the default HUD doesn't have, because these elements aren't crushed together like a fucking PB&J. This stuff is supposed to be spread out on purpose. However, if you play TF2 on an ultra-wide display, and you like the design of the default HUD, this is probably the best option for you. I actually don't know if this is true, because I don't have an ultra-wide display, and I have no idea how the default HUD scales on those displays. But if everything really stays in the corners, you're probably better off with this. It's not my place to tell mod authors what they should and shouldn't do, but I really feel like this should lean harder on the default HUD's design than it currently does, and maybe space things out just a little more. There are good ideas here, but I am really not a fan. But you might be, and that's alright. Anyway, no more complaining. Let's go to HUD 3. Compared to the other HUDs so far, Cool HUD integrates way more color into its design. Everything really pops in a unique way while still resembling the default HUD in its form and function. While Middleman decorates its panels with white icons, Cool HUD has them take the form of class emblems. To be honest, this was confusing at first, since I thought it was a class indicator, but you do get used to it pretty quickly. The major strengths here are in an almost sketch-like design. The secondary font used is a very nice handwritten font. It almost looks like the one I use for my thumbnails. And some other panels like the scoreboard or MVM's money almost resemble a chalkboard. I really like what's on offer here stylistically. Unfortunately, this has the same problems as Middleman in one particular area. All the charge panels here are really close together and look super awkward stacked on top of each other. In fact, it really looks like they don't have any padding at all. Even in the mod page, you can see something like the Supernova power-up from Manpower clipping into the health panel. If everything was given just a little more space, I don't think I'd have anything negative to say about this, and I don't think it'd negatively impact the HUD at all. Of course, I'm not glowingly positive here either, it is just a very solid HUD overall. If you really love the vanilla HUD, you love it so much that you want to barely change anything about it, then you will absolutely adore AMP HUD. At a first glance, you literally might not notice a difference with the default HUD, and that's on purpose. AMP HUD takes the positive things about vanilla and does not change them. Everything done here is to fix the ugly and inconsistent parts of the default HUD, in particular, changing the charge panels and normalizing the position of your health. There's not too much to say here. AMP HUD is firmly placed in that hardline vanilla design I discussed earlier, or, well, I guess there's two small problems. I don't like the outline chat. It draws attention to something I've had to censor before. Game chats are usually best as something you have to actively focus on. If I could ignore chat, and if the people watching me can ignore chat, that's a good thing, even if you guys don't ignore chat usually. Second, I think the ammo panel is a little too large. It doesn't matter what weapon you're using, half of this thing is completely unused. I have no idea how you'd fix this, but you gotta try at least something there. This HUD is very similar to Dart HUD, but the main HUD is built out of rounded squares instead of sharp, slanted ones. Compared to the others, it is a little unfinished, and there's a lot of quirks in its design, but the ideas here are really cool. Aside from the health and ammo icons, what I believe to be the defining feature here is the way certain charge panels are done. The panels are integrated seamlessly into a strip that's under the health and ammo icons. This strip would be fine alone, but allowing elements to be overlaid on it makes it very cool as a multi-purpose UI element. Of course, it is pretty limited, since you can only put one of the charge panels here, and it's completely useless on the ammo counter, since that disappears when you switch to melee, but it is very interesting regardless. Something I'm not a fan of, though, is the positioning of your health bar. It's put in the perfect place to look as terrible as possible with most classes. This bit of UI here makes me sick. I don't care what you do, change that. There's something else notable here though, and that's the min mode. I haven't talked about min modes until now since I'm really just not a fan of them, but this HUD's min mode changes things completely. Everything here gets centered and revolves around your class portrait in the middle. I think this is a nice alternative to the standard design, but it's not necessarily better. It's a whole lot of information to pack into a tiny place, and the way charge panels hang off just looks terrible. This needs work just like the main HUD. Our last HUD here is special. Because I made it! You thought this list would be free of bias? Oh, absolutely not. My HUD is the best out of all of these. Sure, I basically didn't touch anything aside from the base HUD and the main menu, but does that really matter when you have something so peak? It's so peak, in fact, that before this video comes out, I'm releasing an update so it can work on casual servers. Yeah, that's right. I had this thing public for like a year without the ability to play in casual. Really, my standards are only the highest. All the information is right where you need it too, packed up there in the top right. Look at that round timer positioning. It's simply just beautiful, and that setup text overlapping it. This is pure Kino, let me tell you. Okay. Let's be real here. This is a joke cut I made based on a Game Banana request. A request I didn't even get the reward for, by the way, because the submitter closed the request when I completed the mod. This was a 2-day project and literally the only experience I have ever had making a TF2 HUD. HUD making is hard, people. As hard, if not harder, than a majority of mods you see for the game. I've been very critical about many of the HUDs here today, but I feel like I know better than the average person that it's challenging work, and I really respect all the people here making unique interfaces. Anyway, I think that's a great note to end on. Wait, were you wondering which one was my favorite? You really thought I was gonna tell you. Huh. Well, you just gotta wait for next week's video. It's Ampod.
Melts with the ice storm of waning machines. Hold for a moment when the makers share a hint of care. Color be gone.